Hey everybody, welcome back to the Gentleman Toker Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Tierney. Pleased to make your acquaintance. So we are just super excited about National Cannabis Championship coming up. It's the Washington Metro area's first really big, super legitimate cannabis competition. I get to be a judge and thought it'd be cool to talk to the other judges. They're all, really well-respected people from the local cannabis community, and wanted to hear, more about their journeys in the industry and challenges and what they love about it, and just how darn tootin' we are excited to judge all the weed. So anyway, today, in fact, we're joined by one of the most prominent longtime cannabis advocates in Washington, D.C., Alan Amsterdam. We're coming up on National Cannabis Festival, and what we wanted to do is get to know some of the other judges. As you know, I'm going to be a judge at this year's National Cannabis Championship, but I am far from the only judge, and we are super excited to have Alan Amsterdam with us today. Alan,
thank you for having me, Joe, by the way. Sorry, didn't interrupt.
Oh, thanks. When we're looking at the story of Initiative 71, it would be, it's incomplete without looking at, Capitol Hemp as what happened there is kind of the catalyst for a lot of the movement that we've seen on legalization in DC. And Alan, you're one of the longest tenured and most respected cannabis advocates in the city.
Thank you for that.
Can you give us a little background?
Yeah, absolutely. We like to call ourselves the birthplace of Initiative 71 would be the the formal way we like to let people know. Really, what happened was I lived in Europe, and I moved back, and I saw that there was this huge need for cannabis culture. There was nothing. Everyone was in fear. Any kind of thing that was going on was like, you can go to Baltimore, you can go to head shops there where they kind of left them alone. There was some stuff in West Virginia. There was sporadic stuff surrounding us, but there was nothing here that was part of the cannabis culture. So what we saw was a lack of cannabis culture, and all we always saw was shops that were trying to just sell stuff. They didn't really know what they were doing. They really weren't informing the consumer of anything. They weren't participating in the culture. They were just participating in business, and that's fine. But a lot of people didn't know what they wanted, and I saw that kind of opening coming from Europe. Working in the cannabis space there, so there was this need. I met Adam Eidinger, who became my business partner, and we decided, he was in the hemp industry part. I was in the growing part, and we decided to join forces, and we figured, we both had stuff on both ends, and we could come together and really kind of figure out how to propel the cannabis culture in DC, or at least start it, get a baseline, and then go from there.
That's amazing. And yeah, you mentioned, I remember back in those days, it was, you had to ride out to Baltimore. There was Docs and there was Fireflies, which was also like a lingerie and sex toy shop. So it did double duty over there. And then I remember Charlie Brown's in West Virginia, and that was it. It was so, it was a trip. If you wanted to buy a bowl, you can't just go to I can get one from the gas station now.
Right.
But, I wouldn't. I don't recommend anyone does. But it's ubiquitous now, whereas back then, it was a special trip for me and the boys to go out and let's Absolutely. Go get some bowls and some bongs and stuff.
Yeah, and, it's come a long way. For example, when we started out, we were afraid of our own shadow. We were you had to go back down there. Now, I have a website where I have e-commerce where you can come and you can look and stuff, and you can go on the Capitol Hemp's website and you kind of see things. And it's a far cry from those days of you got to go to Baltimore, you got to do this stuff. It's all becoming, standardized or normalized. And that's really what Adam and I's vision is to make it normal, not make it we're some suspect people or people coming in are suspect. We always felt we're normal. We just like to use cannabis as opposed to alcohol. And we didn't feel that was an abnormal way. We felt like we were ahead of the curve, and society just wasn't there yet. And we wanted to bring it closer to where we were at that time, and we were really interested in focusing on the culture. And, like I said, we've brought it, so far now it's, everything's online, everything's, this normal world where people actually, corporate cannabis is coming in. So I didn't expect it to go that far that quick, but we're really happy that things are at least moving in a better direction.
Well, I mean, it looks like your intuition was right, and your plan paid off. There's an incredible weed culture here in DC now. I'm looking at the equipment behind you. Some of those
Puffco Peaks, the Puffco Peak Pro. That's the new ones. All the new accoutrements, and now it's like normal. Like it's incredible what's going on there. They have apps for them, which, back in the day, everyone was afraid to even admit they use cannabis. Now there's apps for these things. It's ridiculous.
Right. And I remember like the old, there were none of these, electronic gadgets back then, right? I think the first vaporizers I saw were like a wooden box with like tubes and bags in it or something.
We call them pencil sharpeners. That's what they look like, with the thing and the glass. And they did work and they got the job done, but they really weren't, Look, when the volcano came in about 20 years ago, actually about 22 years ago, they were the game changer. They were the ones that realized, now we can use electronics that are in the normal world, move it into this space, and people are interested. And it was just all kind of started in Amsterdam, where I remember this guy, Eagle Bill, used to have this gun where he would hold it in the, if you ever go to Amsterdam, the Hemp Marijuana Museum, and he would take this paint thinner, and he would take it over and he would heat the cannabis up and you would vaporize it. And that was like the original vaporizer. And so I was like, when I saw the volcano, I'm like, oh my God, it was like the moment, like, they figured it out. It's amazing. Because, people were buying paint thinners at Home Depot. It was just weird,
Right. Absolutely. Certainly appreciate the progress there.
Absolutely.
And I definitely want to talk about Amsterdam with you. But getting back to Capitol Hemp and what actually happened. So, my understanding is, the reason that you guys got involved in trying to push forward Initiative 71 is that Capitol Hemp got raided by the police, right?
In October of 2011, I had 2 locations at the time. We were kind of moving on up. Things were going well for us. Sales were strong. Both store, we had Adams Morgan location, and then we opened up in Chinatown, like 1 block from a Verizon Center, and it became a very a good business model. We were really happy, and then powers that be didn't like who we were, and Adam was very political, and with that, we kind of got into not like disagreements with the city, but we surely weren't on their good list. And they raided us.
Sure.
So they raided both stores simultaneously. They took about $250,000 worth of my glass and Adam's glass and confiscated it. We played the game got the lawyers, did everything. They arrested us, threw us in jail. It was like one night in jail. They threw my employees in jail. It was, they dropped the charge of the employees and then they charged us. And then we basically decided, hey, we'd already talked about legalization initiative because we knew the initiatives from the 1996 proposition. Not proposition, the initiative 16. The initiative that was the original cannabis initiative in 1996 or 98 in D.C. So we knew that and that got overturned by the powers that be. So we knew that this initiative thing does work because now we had medical was coming. Because they reintroduced the medical and decided to go with that medical that had been from that 96 bill that we had. I don't know if you're familiar with the original medical marijuana initiative that went down. I was in Amsterdam at the time, but I was coming back and forth and I was helping with that a little bit. Just some friends that were working on it. And that initiative was the one that catapulted the medical cannabis initiative we have right now.
Yeah, I'm a little familiar. I know that
ago, and I'm old, so.
Right.
Well, I know. I
remember
this.
that
Most people were a little bit younger. Weren't around.
The original program was it was very restricted.
No,
if I recall,
it got blocked by blocked by the city council, or so that we never even got it. So we voted for it. It passed from the people. An initiative is like, for example, I'll just give you the kind of thing. Proposition in California, when they do the proposition, that's like it becomes law because the people can vote for it. Because we're DC and we're not a state, we can do an initiative. What an initiative is, like a proposition light. So when we do things that's like an initiative, then the city council can knock it out of the box. Then and then they send it to the feds. They can knock it out of the box, which they did with tax and regulate. They blocked us on that. So we have to go through, unlike California, when they get a proposition, it's law. It's up to the government to implement it. When we do an initiative, it still has to go through all these, other channels, and we still can get blocked. So the people we really don't have a vote. They have to, like, oh, we like what you did or we don't like what you did. For example, Initiative 77, that was the restaurant one, that got overturned by the city council a couple years ago. Adam, my old business partner, did that, and they didn't like it, so they overturned it. So they have the power, so we're really powerless. And that's why it's important to have these initiatives and to keep on pushing them in, because you can show the powers that be. If you don't do it, we're just going to do another one. We're going to do it till you do what we want you to do. We're going to be the 14th council member. If you're not going to do your job, we're going to do your job.
I love
We're going to try. We're going to attempt to.
Right. And I know we've seen states that, like Arizona, where you get close on passing something, and maybe it didn't pass this time, but you do it again. And,
never give up. Relentless. You have to
get through.
You beat down the door till you knock it down. And what I always tell people, the biggest thing about this whole cannabis industry, and all, I don't care where you are, and you're in the gifting world, you're in my world, in the advocacy world, whatever you are, if you fall down, fall forward and get up. And they're always going to knock you down, and you just have to play the whack-a-mole game. They knock you down, you pop up somewhere else, and you just keep on doing it. And it gets harder each time, but you just got to keep doing it.
Fall forward, man. I like that.
Yeah, fall forward.
So, would it be correct to say that that was sort of the catalyst for the push for Initiative 71?
I can kind of give you the history. So we get raided, we go through the rigmarole of the whole court thing and the lawyers and all that stuff, and then we make a final deal. The deal is, I got a big time murder lawyer. He was like top tier, like negotiator type of guy, and he does negotiations for violent things, not like glass in a shop. So he's basically like, come on, this is ridiculous. Give these people back their stuff, and they'll shut down their shops. And they were like, okay, we'll take that deal. And then, so the government agreed to that. So I got all my stuff back, and then I moved to Silver Spring and opened up a shop there right across the border on Eastern Avenue, like literally 200 steps over the DC line. And then Adam went to do his thing, and then we decided to, hey, we did some stuff for Dr. Bronner's Hemp Soap Company, which was I don't know if you're familiar with them. That's who Adam works for. They're like in Whole Foods, and they're like a very good. They're in the advocacy world. They have they're certified cannabis. So they certify regenerative farms in California. They do the right thing in all aspects. They have fair trade, and they're just the best soap company in the world, in my opinion. And so we did a favor for David years ago, and in that favor, he promised us to help us out. So when we got raided, we went to him and said, we need money. We want to legalize. We want to do an initiative. And he said, as long as the polling's good. So we got a professional poller. We went, the first thing is you get a professional poller. So Adam knows the polling world. He's a public affairs guy, and he worked for Dr. Bronner. So we got these people that do Republicans and Democrats. And so they came back with 69% of DC people, that they polled are down with legalization. So then we went back to him, and he was like, he's over 62% guy. If you have over 62% on the poll, he was in. So he wrote us a check for $100,000, and it was off to the races. I put in some money. We got Drug Policy Alliance, which is hooked up with like the George Soros world. So they came in because they saw David Bronner put in money, and that gave us cachet. We went to MPP, they rejected us. We went to Normal, they rejected us, and they told us we weren't that important, and we were like, we are important, and we're going to make this happen. So we were a ground-up thing. The only thing we started with was a $100,000 base and some other money, and then we went, to the people. And we said, fuck the politicians. Excuse my French. I hope I can say that word.
You can cuss here.
Okay,
we're
cool.
good.
So I said, fuck the politicians. We're going to go straight to the people. And we did. And we won by, I think it was like 71% of the vote. Initiative 71. It was kind of funny. I think it was right around that. And, game on. And, the rest is history. And the intent of our law, Initiative 71, has been interpreted differently. With that said, it really doesn't matter to me how people interpret it. Because, our intent was, the interpretation was, you give your, grandma, grows her apples and she gives you an apple pie. And you're like, hey, check out my apple pie from my next door, And that was our intent. Now, other people took it and ran with it. The King Wheaties of the world was the first gifter. He's gone now, but he was the first one. And he ran with it, and we were, like, hey, man, if you can get away with it, fine. You know what I mean? Go for it, man. It was a very interesting thing. I think it was my only issues with all of that stuff is that, the testing and legitimacy of the product is my only thing. And that's with, and I just want to caveat that with the medical, too. Medical's not tested as well in the city. So everybody's not tested. So I'm not knocking on one person. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to beat up one group or beat up the other. We need testing all the way around. We need comprehensive testing in the city to know what's going on. And that's
I agree with you.
That's
Absolutely.
my only caveat. But with that said, I was kind of happy that people were, Initiative 71 was really about growing and head shops being legal. Those are the two things that we wanted to do. We wanted the government to legalize because we couldn't do it. An initiative in D.C. can't tax and regulate. So all we could do is ask people, hey, do you want it legal? And then let the politicians do their job because we already said we gave them the baseline, like, oh, you want the money? Boom, here you go, buddy. We just got this thing done. You didn't even pay for it. You didn't have to lobby for it. We're giving you the baseline. We did the job because we wanted to come back. We wanted our revenge from you guys fucking us over. So we got the revenge. Now give everybody licenses and let's go. But we obviously got blocked by the feds. And so that was, and then with that, a lot of people that said, okay, well, there's a barrier to entry. I'm never going to be able to get a medical license. I'm never going to do this, but I can do this. And then, the pandemic comes and it's like a perfect circle and a perfect storm that I'm sure you're knee deep in, so you know the deal. This perfect circle, and then all of a sudden, 50 head shops and 100 gift shops opened up in like, I guess a year and a half, 2 years. I don't even know, but it was like all of a sudden, like overnight, and it was crazy. And so now here we are.
Yeah, I mean, it's what the people wanted and what they, what I presume they thought they were going to get. The average citizen, not paying too close attention to it. When they voted for legal weed, they thought they were going to have legal weed stores.
Correct. And they did think that, and you are right. Most people didn't understand that we could only do this initiative because we can only get so much information out on these little sheets when you're signing for the whole initiative thing. And people thought that. But we can only do so much. So we did everything we could do. And then we were handing the baton to the city council. And then they got fucked over by the feds. And here we are in this craziness that we're living in right now.
I mean, it's amazing to hear straight from you, who's been involved since before anybody was even thinking about it. And having that long view of how this all came about. You had said that this wasn't even the beginning of your career in cannabis. You had worked in Europe before that. Right. So, I was supposed to go to Amsterdam before COVID hit. I was going to go to Europe. I was going to come back. I was going to be so classy, and I was going to hit Amsterdam, but all that got canceled. But I'd love to hear like a little more about like what this situation's like in Amsterdam these days, because I heard that they had like repealed it for visitors, but people that live there, and then everybody kind of ignored that. But yeah, I would love to get some insight into the Amsterdam scene from you.
Well, the Holland scene is it's different in the sense that in 1996 they decided they had it was very similar to what's happening in Washington D.C. right now, which is in the sense that everyone was operating illegally. Nobody had licenses; they were just doing it. This one guy, Hank DeFries from the Bulldogs, started it all in the 70s and basically was like, I'm going to sell, tourists want it, I'm going to do it, and screw you to the government. And the government was tolerant of it, and they became more tolerant, and they kind of let it happen, and then they realized, this is out of control now, which is like what we have here. And it was out of control. So they decided to put green stickers in the stores. So they walked into these stores, they made lists of all the stores, and they walked in and said, you guys, here's a green sticker. With that green sticker comes rules. And so there was stores that had alcohol and cannabis, and so they got a green sticker to do both. And there were stores that just had cannabis. They got a green sticker. They could just do the cannabis. And that's how it kind of built up. I came in about 2 years after that occurred, and I bought a shop in Amsterdam in 98, right over, kind of around the 930 Club of in Amsterdam called the Paradiso. So it was like, like the 930 Club venue. So I was like a block. I was like the closest coffee shop to like the 930 Club. Think of it. I was in heaven. I was like, oh my God, I got this incredible situation. I can sell. There's a lot of Americans rolling through at the time. So for me, it was really good. And I realized when I graduated from university that if I didn't go there, that I was going to end up in jail. Probably in statistics was going to get me. And I needed to get my master's in this subject. I didn't want to go and just do, the underground thing in America because there was no Amsterdam University. There was nothing. There was just, the Humboldt guys hiding. the Kentucky people hiding, the New York people hiding, the Boston people. There was, pockets of people, but you only talk to your people. And if you might know someone in that crew, maybe you could get an intro. And, maybe you knew some smugglers over here, you knew some people doing that, and you could kind of talk. But it was real, like, everyone's worried, getting narked out and all that stuff. So everyone kind of hidden their own. And I realized that if I continue this, I'm going to end up in jail, and I'm not going to get the information I need. So I went to Amsterdam. My last name's Amsterdam. I have Dutch roots. So I was like, okay, I want to find out about this. So I had the cab driver take me to a coffee shop, and I sat in a coffee shop, and within 10 minutes, I'm like, okay. And I had a place in New York City and a place in D.C. at the time, and I shuttered places, and I moved to Amsterdam and went on my journey to get a coffee shop. So that's how that started. I just said, I'm going to do this. This is what I need to do, because I need to learn how to do this, because one day I'll be back in America, and I want to have that skill set. And I'm not going to get that skill set in America. So that's, I wanted to get my master's.
That's amazing. So yeah, I've actually heard of the Paradiso.
Famous.
I watch concerts sometimes, and one of my favorites.
Paradiso, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm familiar with that. So yeah, I can imagine having a shop right next to it. Can you tell us a little bit about like what your shop was like?
It was just coffee shops were. My shop was no alcohol. Matter of fact, I had no alcohol. I had no TVs, because the Europeans loved football, and I was like more of an American. Coffee shop. I wanted to entice the Americans. There was enough of that going on. And so they would, if you were, in Europe and you couldn't watch a football game, you're going to leave. But Americans come in, they don't care about football. They just want to smoke cannabis with me. So we would all talk about like all this and that. So I created an environment for Americans. So you'd have the British come in, and where's the football screen? We don't do that here. We're an American shop. And they would just split. They'd buy stuff and split. But they weren't going to hang out. They wanted a football screen. And so it was really one of those things where I realized, I was playing rock and roll, where the other places were playing like techno. And I was like, okay, I'm going to play Black Sabbath. I'm going to play Led Zeppelin, things that I like and Americans like. And so we kind of wanted to make it like an American shop, where it was like, because there was enough of the other stuff going on, and I saw an opening, and I'm like, okay, I want to bring these people in, and we want to, we were able to talk about cannabis and do things that we couldn't do here. And the one thing that is that I really want to hone in, which is a totally separate thing, is about DC, is we have to fight for cannabis lounges, consumption lounges. We have to be able to meet and talk about politics, talk about cannabis, talk about these things, not, just at National Cannabis Championship or the National Cannabis Festival. We have to have places to go and discuss this, because strength in numbers, and they want to separate us. And I always see that when we're going for these new laws, which I'm sure we can talk about if you're interested, we need to make sure that that's part of it, that we have consumption lounges where cannabis consumers can get together, and we can be together without being, in a situation where it's like, okay, it's over at 8 o'clock, you got to go. It's like a bar area where you can go on Monday nights. We're going to have sativa nights, or, indica nights, or we're going to discuss how to, how to test things. And I think that's extremely important, because that's one thing I learned in Amsterdam that we don't have here that was so much fun. We meet people, like-minded people, and we start doing things. I saw you at the Emerald Cup. You know how it is. You start talking to people, you meet people, and then all of a sudden you get these connections. We don't get that here. You go into a shop, you get your thing, and you leave. That's not enough.
Yeah.
That's not enough. That's not a culture. I'm sorry. I just wanted to go.
No. I agree with you 100%. I mean, it was really obvious to me in the early days after Initiative 71 passed and people started doing the pop-ups, how much we've missed that lack of we've missed that connection with each other to be, and that's what people were. They were so excited to finally come together in public and be out of the cannabis closet and just be like, I like smoking weed. I'm talking with other people that like smoking weed. It was a really great vibe.
Yep. Without having to feel uncomfortable. And that's the thing is, I think, the information is not there, especially now, with a lot of the pop-ups and things that are going on in the city right now. A big thing for me is quality control. I don't mind anybody doing hustling. I don't mind it. I get it. I understand it. I've been in the traditional market for my whole entire life. But I was in the organic growing traditional market. And I saw you at the regenerative thing. Where at the Emerald Cup, where we were a couple weeks ago with Caroline, and it was an incredible experience for me. It was my first cup. I don't know if it was yours. It was my first one. But to go in there and see those farmers and to see that kind of stuff, what's going on, and I don't know if you saw them getting hassled by the California cannabis people were hassling them, and to see that this is where the exquisite cannabis is, and this is where the best is, and I think that's where testing comes in, because what's happening with the Emerald Cup is they have a baseline where they test everything. So anything a judge gets is clean. Then we find what's the best from there. Not just anything you get and then you judge from there, because you don't know, does that have pesticides in it? Is it, have plant growth regulators, something that could be bad, in the future for you. And I say and what I tell people, it's like eating Popeye's fried chicken. It tastes good right now, and it's fresh, and it's like, oh, fresh chicken. But when you're 60, it could bite you in the ass, by eating that bad food all the time. And I think the same thing with bad cannabis. And I think we need, and that's one of the reasons, I want this scene to really get to the next level, because there's nothing wrong with hustling, but we all need to hustle with quality product, and we need to make sure that the consumer is getting the best choices they can get. That's all. And I think with
absolutely,
and with DC not testing medical, it's not just those guys; it's the medical too. Sorry.
Yeah, I know it's frustrating, and that's kind of where I came into the scene, and what I've always been trying to teach people is what is quality cannabis, right, and what things should you be looking to avoid. So, I've made it an open book test. I've got, my thoughts all published on the website, but, let me know where you're vibing with this.
Yeah. I was going to segue into the Ganjier thing, because that's where, they've stepped my game up. In other words, I was pretty solid. My first grow was 1980. I mean, that's a long time ago. I was 13 years old. And I, know a lot about cannabis, but when I went and I saw those people at the Ganjier program, they lifted me up to a whole nother level of understanding what quality cannabis, what is exquisite cannabis, what separates the cultures of the world, like the medical cannabis in Maryland, from an exquisite cannabis. And that, to me, is where the Ganjier program came and showed me the way and showed me the next level. And I needed to level up. And we all need to level up.
I think it's impressive that you continue to try and learn about it. A lot of people, especially in the cannabis industry, they get to a certain point and they're like, I know everything and can't tell me otherwise.
Right.
And now I saw somebody that was trying to we've got a judge contest going on, right? So we're going to pick a few judges from the community. And one person mentioned he was a Virginia Ganjier. So I looked into this program a little bit. It's really interesting. Can you tell me, like, what did you learn? I mean, there's so many of these people that are like, oh, we'll teach you about cannabis, and they maybe don't know that much, but this seems pretty legit. Right. What was your experience with it?
Okay, first with the Ganjier, and anybody who's interested in moving and stepping up the game, I encourage them to, this program, to at least look at it and see what's going on, because it's an incredible program. And, I came in it, and the people that were in it, it was the Frenchie Cannoli, rest in peace, who was, the hash maker from heaven. I mean, he's a gift from the gods, for the hash world. We're so happy.
I met that guy.
It's so incredible to have him, and he, unfortunately, he passed away, but he was one of my instructors. And you have Kevin Jojo. You have these people that are on the next level that have been working in Humboldt for so long, and they've figured out so much more than the average person, because they care about the plant, they care about the culture, they care about the future of the of this industry, and they decided to make a program to battle back on kind of the crap cannabis that's going around right now, and how to figure out what is the best, how to figure out also if someone has a medical condition and needs some therapy for it, how to get them from their pain to feeling better. And so they cover all kinds of it's so extensive, and it's the nomenclature. To me, if I had to say one thing that changed me, was my nomenclature. I came into this, I've been in the game, so I've seen it all, but I didn't know how to say it all. I didn't understand the proper way. Instead of saying the word strain, I say cultivar now, and just changing my whole nomenclature and understanding it in a scientific way, and rising up that way, because that, at the end of the day, is where it's all going to be for therapeutic value, for people that are looking for pain mitigation or just homeostasis, just to be like, I want to use cannabis so I can go throughout my day and function, at optimal speed. Because for me, I can use cannabis before I work out, when I go to the gym. I can use cannabis before I'm doing, projects. I mean, it's something I utilize as a tool in my tool chest to make my life better, not just, hey man, it's all good, I'm going to eat some nachos and sit on a couch. And I think that people don't understand that, and what the Ganjier program has started to help me dial in that. Like, I know now, I kind of knew before, but now I know exactly what I need when I wake up. Okay, this is what I need to work out. This is what I need to perform these tasks. And I think once you start dialing it in, it really becomes an enhancer in your life. And that's really the key to the Ganjier, is they've taught me how to help other people and educate other people to, use this as a tool for them, not just a party tool, but a useful tool in your life. And I think that's the key to this. And I think people look at it the wrong way and don't understand that it's, it's like a hammer. It's like it's part of your tool chest to move forward, to propel your life in a better direction if used properly, like any tool.
Yeah, I had a really good, before I started off on the website, the Gentleman Toker, I actually, I was pretty dialed in on the cannabis that I liked from the dispensaries and what worked really well for me, and had a really good routine down. And then once I started doing reviews for, and my reviews are always based on quality, right? Like I wasn't looking for anything specific other than quality. So I ended up smoking just whatever random stuff people were giving me. And that was definitely not as conducive to a productive lifestyle as, getting dialed in with what terpene profiles, what cannabinoid profiles work for you, along with your, your circadian daily rhythms of when you get up and when you get tired and all that kind of stuff. So I agree. Used properly, it's a lot more than just sinking into the couch. But, there's also some good times, you need to sink into the couch from time to time.
I'm not saying look, we're all really good at that part. I'm just saying that we weren't good at the other part. And I'm real good at hitting it and hanging on the couch and eating Doritos. But I'm saying I wasn't utilizing it on the other direction. And I'm just saying that we all kind of know that way, but we need to know this way. And I think another thing you touched on, which is I'm really glad you brought it up, was terpenes, because terpenes are pretty much everything. And in this cannabis plant, when it comes to smelling it, tasting it, I mean, those are the things that are going to tell you what's going on in the plant before you and tell you what effects you're possibly going to have. And realizing the terpene profile, for example, the Emerald Cup I saw. I think it was Tim Blake and a couple other people, Todd McCormick, who's going to be a judge at the, I believe, for the for the championship, which we haven't discussed yet, but we can talk about that. They're going to, they were all talking about how terpenes affect everything. They affect they can wake you up, they can put you to sleep, they can make you feel good, they can make you feel bad. All these different things are going on, and dialing it in and finding out what terpenes work for you is super important. And that's really what, where the magic is. And also, the Emerald Cup this year is now going to do it where they're doing all gas strains are going to be together. All haze strains will be together, all the cakes and the gelatos. So they're separating it in that way. And that's how they're judging things. And that's the first year ever. And I just saw that, and I thought that was very interesting, because I don't know how we're going to do it, but I think we should try to pitch, for this, at least to see maybe we could do that as well. Because that really gives you, it's hard to take a haze strain, which is 100% sativa, which is a super up euphoric high, and then you got a GMO, which is real gassy, and it's going to have a little bit of everything in it. They're two different things, and they're doing two different things to your body. You really can't compare them in a judging, you know what I mean? They're separate. And I'm so glad that they decided to do that for the first year. And I think that that's a great thing. And that's why the Emerald Cup's so ahead of the curve, is they're always figuring out the new levels. And those people that are at the Emerald Cup are the same ones. A lot of them are friends with the Ganjier program or Ganjier instructors themselves,
Yeah, the whole thing is really exciting. It's interesting to hear that that's where they're going forward in the future.
That was a week ago they announced that.
Oh my gosh. Things just keep moving. And as you mentioned, we're both going to be judges here for the National Cannabis Championship, and we've touched on quality a good bit. Like, what are you looking for? I'll tell you my philosophy. My philosophy, I can break it down very simply to people in that if it smells good to you, then it's good to smoke. If you smell it and it smells bad to you, you might have some issues there.
But then
that's the very basic of it.
So the Ganjier has taught us, they have this thing called a systematic assessment protocol, and it goes through aroma, experience, taste. It's a litany of things, and it really covers everything. I mean, these they took years to develop this, and that really covers it all. And so for me, it's, when you do the systematic assessment protocol, every part is important. As all parts are important. So you go through it from, from a dry hit, tasting the dry hit, you're marking down how that dry hit was, how it tastes in your mouth, all the way to how it smells when you're grinding it. And a lot of times, like, I'll take my grinder, and I learned this from Kevin Joju, one of my instructors. And if you can smell it only up close, It's weak. Down here, and then you go all the way down, you can smell it's powerful. And so finding those things, finding the nuances, that's what separates exquisite cannabis from good cannabis, and those kind of things, not everybody's in it, but it's the same type of thing with, when it's craft beer, when you take, a regular beer and a craft beer, so it's got a little bit more going for it. You're going, whoa, smell that. It's a little deeper. It's got layers, things going on. And that's what I'm always looking for. I'm looking for, because if I'm looking for the most exquisite, I'm trying to find the most layered, tasty, all around everything. It's got to have the whole package. It can't have just 9 out of 10 of the, points. It's got to have 10 out of 10. It doesn't have to be a 10 out of 10 on all of those points, but it's got to be pretty high up. And what they taught us, and you go over these systematic assessment protocols, and you do it so much that you start really getting a feel for it, and then you understand, and that's like the next level. And that's what the Ganjier program did for me. That's why it was so important to get there. Carmen, who's my store manager at Capitol Hemp, and he's also going to be a judge. He has he has palate training from being a chef, so he already was there. So I'm learning this stuff, and he's like, and so I got help from him as well, and I started realizing that, and they teach us that your olfactory is from when you were young. When you first smelled a lemon when you were a kid, that's in your brain. So when you smell cannabis smells like a lemon, that's from when you were a child. So you have to go back and figure out your olfactory. So it's this whole kind of cool thing that I'm now bringing up, and it's really fun. And I think when people start getting into it that way, they're really going to realize, it's just like, it's endless, man. You start smelling stuff. Cannabis covers everything. It never stops. And these, I'm a breeder as well, and these breeders just keep on breeding new stuff, and it's just incredible. And it's never ending, and it's like forever. We always be able to, please our nose with new smells.
Oh yeah, no, it's really exciting to see, how much development is going into, future cannabis right now. So from like you've mentioned that you grow, you've mentioned that you, obviously you like to smoke. What do you like to grow? What do you like to smoke? Are you into the gas, the haze? Like what's yours?
I'm originally a haze guy, and I'm a haze guy from, but I was a acrid skunk guy in the 80s. So that really skunky stuff that's not around anymore, where I could have it in my pocket, and if I hid it in my high school, the whole fucking school smelled like skunk, and nobody knew who had it. So we would just skunk up the auditorium type of thing. We would go boom, and the whole place would smell. And the teachers, they were so mad. They were like, "Who's got the weed? We know someone has it." We're like, "Fuck you," and we would leave. We would just skunk it up and leave. And that was like that's what the gas does to me. So that is my replacement. So I can't get the acrid skunk anymore, so I like the gas for that. But during the day, I got to function, so I like to be sativa guy during the day. So I like the hazes, super silver haze, super lemon haze, original haze, any of that kind of stuff that's going to jack me up so I can function and get all my work done, so I can get to the point where I can do gases at the end of the night. You know what I mean? I want to get there. Sometimes I can gas up during the day. I really like it, but, I wait. I try to. And I'm
on board.
I'm a big old school hash, and I want to bring old school hash making techniques that we were talking about, French. You can only to DC once we have licensing. I really want to go that direction. I think people will have a better understanding and a better fondness for hash once it's presented to them the right way. Not.
Oh yeah. I would love to see more old school hash.
It's coming
in DC.
I'm
super excited about that.
We're going to be the hash makers of the city. We're going to, I didn't study under Frenchie, unfortunately, his hash making techniques. I studied on him from the Ganjier program, but I do have skill sets from Europe when I lived there, and I do know how to do some hash stuff, old school. I'm not the greatest, but I'm going to be fine tuning them, and I'm going to get better. And I also want to study. I'd love to study under Bella, who studied under Frenchie. I don't know if she's going to be giving courses, soon, or any of those type of people that will pop up that have the skill sets. Nikki T, who's one of our instructors of the Ganjier, he's like a rosin king. He's the type of guy that can go out to fields of cannabis and go like that and say, that's good for hash or that's not good for hash. He can literally touch the plant. He's that good, and I'm so far away from that, but my goal is to get to that point, because I wake up every day and I always think, oh, I know everything. And I wake up and I walk to my plants and I'm like, something happened that I don't know what happened. I'm like, I don't know anything today. And it's one of those things where you think you know it and then you don't know it. And then it's fun to find out and figure it out and then to fix the problem and move on. It's like, okay, well, I figured that one out. And it's just a never ending. And I think the one thing that bothers me about the whole scene, I just want to throw one thing in, is that Initiative 71 was originally for growers. We wanted people to learn how to grow in DC because we're in an urban environment, and if you learn how to grow, you're going to have a skill set that's going to take you to the next level when this legalization comes. And by just being a gifter, i.e. meaning just getting the Cali packs, I'm not about anti-hustle at all. But what I am is they should have learned how to grow because it takes time. And people like myself and Scrogger, all we did was like, come on, guys, grow, learn how to grow, get your skill set down. Because when all this goes and they shut everything out, there's still going to be that, illegal world, traditional market coming in. But the average person is going to want to convert because they're already converting to the gifting shops. But once that all ends, they're going to want to come in, and that's where the key to being a grower. Because if you were working in one of these places, you're going to be good at. You can go get a job at a retail store, but you don't know how to make it, And you have this opportunity. You need to be over 21 and have a place in DC, and you can grow. The cultivation centers got rules. They got cops coming in there grabbing their stuff. We can just grow with Initiative 71. So that was, to me, I just wanted everyone to at least attempt to try it. Some people are like, I tried it. I don't like growing. But the people that took it, like Scrogger, he was growing before. He's now, selling, gifting clones out and, helping people grow in Virginia and doing all these great things. And I think, and teaching people, it's teaching people how to fish as opposed to, teaching them just how to sell fish is my thing. I know it's biblical reference, but you know what I mean.
Well, from what I've seen of the industry to date and the, big multi-state operators and the quality they're putting out, I think home growing, is just something that we need to push for every state that legalizes, just as a check against the industry, that if you can't supply quality products at fair prices, we could do it ourselves.
Exactly. And I think that we need to go even further with that. We were, you talked at the, at the city council thing we just had a couple weeks ago when we were all testified in front of Mendelson and his crew.
Yeah.
And, the one thing, that we need to make sure that we, is, let these people know that we need to be able to have home cultivation licenses, that it shouldn't just be, I do like, the micro license. I think it's great because you can grow it, process it, and sell it. So that's awesome. And then the big guys only can get 2. They can't get all 3, which is really good. But we need to have, the only way to battle this is I went to I was at the Emerald Cup with, Carmen, my store manager, and we were sitting and we were watching these, these farmers talk. And at the very end, I asked a question. I said, for an emerging market, you guys are saying California sucks. What do we need to know? What do we need to fight for in DC or anywhere on the East Coast to not have the problems you're having? And he said, that the big guys can't have unlimited grow, and that the small guys have to be able to direct to the consumer. Do you remember when you were at the Emerald Cup? You had to go to that. We had to go to the booth. They could show you this weed in a jar. Then you had to go to another place to buy it, where you could go to Cookies and you could buy whatever you want directly from them. And we had this crazy thing going on, and it was like it was difficult. And so they were saying that is killing them. And so we need to fight. So we need to take all these things that we're learning from California, and we need to make sure and drill it in these politicians. Say, look, we don't want this, and we have this window of opportunity right now to make sure that this happens. And if we don't, we're going to lose it. And they're never going to give us this stuff. We're never going to get it back. If we don't get it first, we're not going to get it again, So it's important to fight the way we need to fight. And I'm glad you guys all came on, and we all need to go and bum rush these politicians that supposedly work for us, Sorry.
No, I mean, I made that exact same point. I was hoping that he was listening to me because it seems like there's they go, oh, well, we'll just borrow the stuff from this state and we'll just copycat it over and over because it's been successful there.
And DC is a different place, too, because we're thinking, I have a shirt on. I just want to promote it. It's not selling anything. Don't buy weed from bankers. Don't buy weed from bankers. And that's really, we have to get back to have people understand that there was a culture here before and that we need to, help that culture. There's new people who want to come in. That's fine. But, the bankers, come on, man. That's where we got to draw a line somewhere.
I need that shirt, man. I got to get one of those shirts. Well, Alan, it has been a pleasure speaking with you today, man. Thank you so much for being here and chatting with us and telling us about your history of Initiative 71. I'm looking forward to working with you at National Cannabis Championship and helping crown the best grower in DC.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good time, and I'm really glad that National Cannabis Festival is doing the championship. I think it's really important to get people motivated about growing because this is what's coming. And if you don't know how to grow and you want to grow, this is the time, start doing it. And I always tell people, even if you're not there yet, put it in, and then at least we'll tell you what's wrong with it. And for me, it's never a gotcha game. This is one thing, and then we go. It's never a gotcha game about pesticides, herbicide, plant growth regulators, or bad cannabis. It's about getting better. It's like saying, okay, this is what's wrong with your cannabis. If you go back, try again, maybe and come back. It's not saying you suck, don't do it. It's like, let's all get better. And the way the Ganjier program is like, let's all help other people rise up. So when you say something to someone, it's constructive criticism. It's not, you suck. It's like, we can all get better. Right. I fucked up so many grows in the 80s. It's ridiculous. But I learned the hard way, just like everyone's going to learn the hard way. And there's nothing wrong with that. And so I encourage people, even if you have a bad grow, keep on trying, because eventually you're going to figure it out. And that's the future, is to make your own cannabis. And nobody can make it better than yourself. That's it.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Alan.
All right, man.